It's off to a great start. Hold, please. I do want to start with a little bit of a disclosure. So I had the opportunity to give a version of this talk last month at the NSCA National Conference. Has anyone ever been? Can you raise your hands? Anyone? A couple of you? Okay. Great event. Was so honored to be there. The Chris asked me to go. It was one of the first times they had a business talk. And I did a version of this talk, but it's a very professional place. So they got the PG version. I'm going to give you all the NC-17 version of this talk. So come with me, if you will. Our story begins. It is in New York City. It is January of 2010, and it is a particularly cold year. New York City is often cold in the winter. This year was particularly gnarly. It was like a tundra. And I have just turned 30 years old, and I'm feeling depressed because and this happens, I'm sure many of you can relate, you get a big birthday, you're introspective about your life, and I'm feeling pretty sure that my life is not gonna work out the way that I want it. I had moved to New York City to be a professional actor, and I never thought I'd be a Broadway star. I didn't have, frankly, that sort of maybe self-esteem or ego. I just wanted to be a working actor. And I was working, but I wasn't making a lot of money, and the work that I was doing was not always satisfying. And I was coming to the terms of the fact that even if my career upswinged, maybe I did in fact want a kid, or maybe I wanted to leave the northeastern United States. And the cherry on the sundae of this time is the lovely young woman I'm dating at the time. It's clear she's not the one for the road. So I am not feeling great. But in this time in my life, I have two things that are great, okay? Thing number one is I love training. Have any of you, I'll give you a gold star, raise your hands if you've ever read Henry Rollins' The Iron in the Soul. Yeah, of course, Mike and Fury, yeah. Great article, highly recommended. The gist is this. In an uncertain and unfair world where you can't control a lot of things, where I couldn't control getting jobs and I was broke and girls were still pretty intimidating, 135 pounds was always 135 pounds. And there's a little bit of solace I think one can take from that. And you need to understand, I didn't grow up going to the gym. I was a theater kid. I was not an athlete. I didn't feel comfortable in those spaces. So it was very strange that this place became my sanctuary, my church. It was the one place I could count on. So there's a great book called Power of Habits by a guy named Charles Duhigg, and he makes the point that fitness is a keystone habit. And the reason for that is because we see when we do certain things for our fitness, we get results. It is a doorway to experience our agency and our volition. And that was also the thing I started loving in the other thing that was great in my life, which was training other people. Because throughout my 20s, I was really into training. I started by reading all the maybe silly bodybuilder magazines, even the weird ones, the Robert Kennedy ones. And then I got on like the hard stuff. I found like T-Nation, I found strengthcoach.com. I started coming to Perform Better. And I love training other people because I love the arts, but wow, there is something unique about the helper high. You get this of like helping the person seeing results. So I'm with my girlfriend at the time. We're sitting in my bedroom in Astoria, Queens. We're sitting on the bed, which is a full-size bed crushed up against the wall because only rich people can walk around their bed, right? And I'm not a rich person. I'm not fancy like that. And I'm saying to her, like, God, it'd be so nice if I could just leave this semi-abusive partner of the theater and just do training. Because, like, I love training, I love thinking about it, but I couldn't see a world in which I left my community. But then a fateful thing happened. So the summer of 2010, a few months later, I did a national commercial. If you go to YouTube, if you want to look up Mayhem Allstate Espresso, you will see like 3 seconds of me in a one-day shoot that I did for which I was paid about $65,000 over the next 8 years. So keep in mind, at this point, I got like $1,500 in the bank. I have 18 grand of college loan debt. I had never made more than $40,000. And I can remember thinking to myself, now this was a while ago, inflation, it wasn't that long ago. I can remember thinking to myself, wow, if I can just make $600 per week after taxes, I would be a king. I would be rich. Like, who could want for anything more, right? So I get this check. The first check after taxes was like 10 grand, 12 grand, right? So I do two things. I grab my friends, my bohemian actor artists, and I bring them to the Astoria Beer Garden in Queens, and I buy pitchers of beer. And it's the most satisfying, exciting thing is buying my friends beer off the largesse of my actor income. And the second thing I do is I march into my talent agent's office and I tell them, I am now a TV and film and commercial actor. I'm no longer a theater actor because I figure, okay, if I stay in town, I'll work a little less, but it will be more remunerative. It'll maybe be more interesting and artistically satisfying. And I could put a little bit of effort into my nascent training career because I'm no longer leaving town. So I start writing that fall a newsletter, emails to my friends, because I was following all of the proto-fitness bloggers. I was following people like my good buddy Tony Gentacore, and I was like, well, this guy writes about training, and he's legit, and he's kind of weird. Maybe I'll do that. And I started writing to all my friends and telling them about creatine and why you should do strength training. And I start doing some group training classes. And before I know it, things start to take up. So in 2011, I launched a 6-week makeover program, okay? This was before the free ones, okay? So this was a paid one, right? And this grew over the year. I'm emailing all the people. My best friend from my community theater group, Michael Keeler, pitches me on starting a real business. And I say, okay, let's do it. So we hire a couple trainers, we get a lease, he puts all his furniture in a van, he quits his high-priced, like, nonprofit job in Philadelphia, moves to New York City, drops all of his stuff into the space that become Mark Fisher Fitness, and as we always say, we accidentally started a weird gym. So before I go further, just so I understand what we're all getting into here, if you have heard of Mark Fisher Fitness, if you feel kind of familiar with that or me, can you please stand up? Stand up if you know anything about MFF. It's okay if you don't. I just want to understand more. Okay, this is great. Sit back down. Okay, so a lot of you, those that don't, I'm so happy to have you here. I promise this is still not going to make sense after the end of our time together. So my friends were Broadway people, so we didn't call our clients, we called them ninjas. And we didn't call it a gym, it was the Enchanted Ninja Clubhouse of Glory and Dreams. And our mascot was the unicorn. And my favorite encapsulation of MFF, a friend of mine once said he felt that Mark Fisher Fitness was a temper tantrum against nihilism. And it was a crazy ride. I did it for 13 years. At the very end of last year, I sold it to that bald guy there, Steve Hohner, Coach Fury. So this is an auspicious moment for me to try to figure out, what the hell was that? What happened? I think I have some things I can share with you that'll be valuable for you. I also want to share with you some things I don't think I did maybe as well as I could have or I would have done differently. And my hope is that you're going to be writing down some things and doing different things, because I want to tell you stories, but I want you to do different things and get different results. Before we do anything else, because this type of talk can perilously get all about like me, I want you to think about you. So I'm going to ask you to do something. I want you to do an exercise for me. You should know some ground rules. You do not have to do this. You can sit there in silence. I'm going to like you no matter what you do. But I think this will go better for you if you actually do what I say. And I acknowledge there's a little bit of a weirdness writing down answers if there's people around you. But I want you to write down on paper or type in your phone. You can just scribble if you want to amuse me, but you don't want to do this because you think it's lame. I still like you. But I think it's useful because one of the takeaways from my experience, what I think we did well, and I think what matters for today, we have to be going where you want to go. We have to go where you want to go, okay? So this is a fast way of doing it. I'm going to share with you, I think, a better and more robust system. But right now we're doing this Rachel Ray style, easy bake oven. I'm going to put the muffins in the oven and then ding, muffin's going to be done in about 60 seconds. So jot down some of these things. How many hours you're working, how much money are you making, and if nothing else, it's 3 years from today, things go good. Answer this sentence. What makes your life so great in 3 years? I think you gotta start with this stuff. You gotta. I'm gonna give you 15 seconds, and if you just wanna sit in a comfortable silence, that's okay too. But if you wanna do it in your head, in 3 years, if things go really good, because 3 years, some stuff can happen. Why has life turned out? Why has your career worked out so well? What's going well? Okay, so I think this is a good Rachel Ray style. If you want a more robust system, I'm happy to give you, I'd love to share with you, I know a lot of you got it yesterday, my formula for goal setting. I got to credit Mike Boyle. Mike Boyle, that same fateful summer, 2010, said, read Brian Tracy's goals. Well, not to me, he didn't know me. I was a random dude on the internet lurking him. And I read it, and I adopted a goal setting process. I think put some important things that are not in that I would love for you to do. And if anybody feels jaded about this, I get it. So I'll concede two things. Can we agree that writing it down does not mean any of it's going to happen? Is that fair? Can we agree? Just writing it down doesn't mean anything. Can we agree the odds of you accidentally fumbling towards the life of your dream without ever thinking what that might be like is unlikely? Can we agree with that? Yes? Yeah? As they say, plans never work, but planning always does. Okay, so that's a little about you. So a little bit more about me here. Yeah, that is a picture of me. So you know a little bit about Mark Fisher Fitness's brand. The other thing I'll say about MFF, and this is like a little bit nauseating and eye-rolly, but just so you know, I'm not completely making things up. It did very well. We had a lot of local national media. We were on the Inc. 500 as one of the fastest growing companies in America. Men's Health said we were on the top 10 gyms in America. I did a TEDx talk on culture with my business partner, and the somewhat gauche, tacky number that is thrown around is we did nearly $34 million during my 13 years at the helm, right? So we did a lot of good stuff. I also did a lot of bad stuff that I'll tell you about, but a lot of things went well during my tenure. These days, we're not talking about this a lot, but these days, I think about nothing but helping gym owners create a gym and a business and a life that they love with this company, Business for Unicorns. Raise your hand if you're, we have a few people in here in Business for Unicorns. Yeah, great, great, great. Great, so I am not talking about this business almost at all today. I will just say that the focus of that business is helping owners, yes, make more money. I want you to make more money, but I also want a more consistent positive impact on your clients and importantly on your team so you can have freedom and take some vacations. I would note we both have a coaching group and I am purchasable. You can buy me for a day or a half day. That's all I got for you on that. Lastly, relevant. I still own a gym. I own a gym in northern New Jersey, a 6-on-1 model, a small footprint, small staff, Alloy personal training. I am a franchisee. That means I pay a fee to license Rick Mayo's model. I think he's a smart guy. I'm very fortunate. I run that in about an hour per week because I have a superstar out there. But here's the takeaway from the 13 years. That person was a Mark Fisher Fitness intern 10 years ago that I kept in touch with for 8 years and then begged and pleaded with her to join me on this project, and I'm so grateful to have kept that relationship going. The cool thing on the back half of your career is you can start to rehire people, and in some cases, if you're lucky, you can sell them your gym. So, one disclaimer only. You will see many weird pictures. I will tell many weird stories. Please do not discount them. I will try to tell you what you might do because the principles will not change. The methods will change. The principles we're talking about today, I do not believe are going to change. You can still apply them. So to my mind, when I'm thinking about building a gym and a life you love, we're talking about culture. When you run a business, you get to build the city that you want to live in. You get to test a hypothesis of how we can be in community with each other, right? And I think of 3 tenets. One we've already talked about is you. It has to, like, you can't be a martyr. You have to factor into this, both the life you want to live, the vision for how you spend your time, but also what matters to you, which we'll talk about in a moment, your values, what's important to you, right? And I know this stuff sounds corny. I promise I'm going to make this operational for you. Second, your clients. Who do you love so much that you will write them a love letter with your business? Right? You're making them art. You're making something for someone you love so much. So we have to be clear on who they are so we understand how we find them and we understand how we take care of them over time. And then finally, the game, if you want big impact, is going to be other people. Otherwise, you're limited by yourself. I'd love to do a whole talk on this as they get all the credit, but I don't have an unlimited amount of time. So that section is going to be a little bit quicker, but if anybody wants to talk about the leadership thing, I'll tell you like full stop, the reason MFF has had the success that it had was because we had amazing people. I'm going to tell you some things I think we did that helped with that, but a lot of it, I got to tell you, I think was luck. I found some amazing people out there. So, values. I was going to ask someone to volunteer their definition, but this room is pingy, so I'll spare you. I'll give you my definition. One's judgment of what's important in life or standards of behavior. Two things about that. The first implies it's kind of subjective, right? Different people value different things. Even in a business, even in a human, you value some things more than others, right? And sometimes you have to decide which value is more important. Second, standards of behavior. Values optimally exist in behavior. They don't a lot, and that's why like people do like business stuff and corporate business stuff, and the executives do their tree and they come back, we have values now. It's excellence, and there's an eagle on the wall, right? Like these things have to exist in behavior. When we get to the last section, again, I'm gonna help you operationalize this with your team, but for right now, I would say, if we don't have a set of articulated values, that's okay, but you do have values. You just might not have articulated them. So let's play this game. Close your eyes for me. Close your eyes for me. I'm not gonna touch your do weird stuff. Close your eyes for me. And this ain't TV, I can see you. I can see you, so you can just willfully make eye contact with me. And I'm still gonna like you. Think about something you've seen either in your business or in the industry that makes you mad. Think about something you've seen in your business or the industry that makes you mad. Now open your eyes. I would argue that whatever makes you frustrated or mad or makes you feel like we can do better, there's a value that is being violated on the other side of it. At the risk of being reductive about something I see the human race largely do wrong, and I've done this too, it's too easy to hold on to the wrong side of the stick. Like we know what we want by what we don't want, but you gotta pivot at some point towards the affirmative value. But what do you want? What do you want the world to look like? So this is the second of MFF's list of values. A few things. We did 3 iterations of this in my time. The first iteration was when Michael Keeler came to my apartment in Queens. He set up a PowerPoint. I'm like, I'm an actor. I'm like, a PowerPoint? And he sets up a PowerPoint and he reviews the values one by one. And he was the person that was like, oh, we should call your clients ninjas because you keep calling them ninjas. And he had a list of all these cool sayings, like, who do you want to be today? Get 1% better. And I was like, whoa, those are cool. Where'd you get them from? And he was like, from you, asshole, because he came and watched class and codified things. So one thing that's hard to model is Michael did a great job of codifying me speaking in tongues. So I'll tell you this, I don't remember a lot about the first values because several years in, it was clear there were things we were seeing that we did not like, that we didn't have an opposite affirmative value. Like when people were not answering emails, I didn't have originally dependability. Do what you say you're gonna do, when you say you're gonna do it, how you say you're gonna do it. So if there's things that go on in your business that you don't like and you don't have a value to point to, you might wanna re-explore this. Now I gotta tell you, 10 is too many. It's too many. I put it up here because it's illustrative. But I gotta tell you, maybe around 2017, we collapsed it down to 6. We invited the team at that point to collaborate. Most of these values exist, but they're now encapsulated in a smaller number. And one other thing I think that is missed with values, okay? So if you already have values, that's a good step. Another thing you might do, I think you're gonna benefit from a 2 to 3 page document of a couple hundred words that explains each value in detail, very specifically, what does that value mean with your team? What does it mean with your clients? What does the opposite of that value look like? How do each value intersect with the other values? Because words alone are just too general, right? Words are symbols. You have to put some meat on the bone so everybody knows what you mean, particularly because when we close the loop, At the end of our time, we'll talk about how this should show up in every element of your experience with your team, including how they evaluate themselves at the end of the year. So all these things up here are reflective of things that if they don't happen, make me mad and or annoyed and or salty, right? I get triggered when I feel people are not sufficiently humble. I don't like it when people feel they've got it all figured out, because I think everybody's wrong about some stuff. Now, I'm not perfect, but one thing I think I do a good job of is I know my shit stinks, and I know in any given moment I'm gonna be wrong about stuff. And honestly, this gets harder because when you're 45 and you talk on stages and I get up here and I say things, I have to speak in some maxims, but everything is contextual. And further, I'm wrong about some stuff right now. My commitment to you is I'm gonna keep humbling myself. Like a lot of what I do now is I fly around the country and I go hang out with gym owners I think are smarter than me, so I can ask them, what are you doing? How can I learn from you, right? And I'm not trying to say like I'm all awesome. I'm just saying, if anything, I get mad when I think people act like they got it all figured out, because I don't think that's true. And further, that I think is a violation of growth, right, of getting better. The one I want to highlight for you, this is the thing that is not obvious on the outside of MFF, the one that I think people don't understand. And we've done none of these values perfectly, we haven't done this perfectly, but all in all, I think we've done better than most, is candor. I always knew I was in trouble if an employee pulled out a piece of paper to read something to me. I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now, right? Now, did we do this perfectly? No. But the reality is every business's health is probably able to track to how many meetings happen after the meetings. Right? Nothing would drive me crazier than if a team member was talking about another team member, because I'm like, just go have the conversation. And nothing would hurt my feelings more than if somebody had a fair or unfair critique of me and they were telling other people and not telling me. Now, I had to learn about that too, because you're the leader, it's hard to speak truth to power. I had to stop being as sensitive about that. They're not going to tie it up with a bow. I have to take the feedback where I can get it. But yes, in a perfect world, we're all saying the things to each other. I would say the last 4 years at MFF, because we've worked on that for many years, there's a great book, Crucial Conversations, about this. That last iteration of the leadership team, Alex, Emily, Chris, I'll tell you, it's not a perfect business, but what I loved about that crew is we never didn't say the thing. We never didn't say a thing. If I have a feeling about you, I'm going to say it to you right then and there. And then it's not going to become, let's kill the monsters while they're small. Don't let the monster get big and silent. Have those conversations. Again, this is hard to do in the real world, but I don't know that every business needs this, but I think it's important to me, and I think it's a thing that helped MFF that's not obvious on the outside. So a couple other brief things I think I did contribute. One, I think I managed my time well. I'm a lazy person. When I was a personal trainer, I would not take a client before 11, and I wouldn't train you on the weekend. You want to train me $500 bucks? No, I'm busy. I'm sleeping because I might have gotten drunk last night. So I would not take clients before 11, and I wouldn't work on the weekends. So what happened was when Mark Fisher Fitness started, huzzah, I had all this time to build the business. If you are the owner, you're the gym CEO, and you have 3 roles. Strategy, where are we going? How are we getting there? Growth, generate the leads, make sure the business is growing. Leadership, pour love, care, and attention into your team. A lot of gym owners, maybe some of you, I'm not trying to attack you, I love you, you're here, I love you, you're amazing. A lot of gym owners are very unhappy with their business and they insist on working in the mornings. And that is okay, and maybe you do somehow well. I can't do that, you might be stronger than me, I mean that sincerely. I wake up crisp and I end the day crispy. If I'm going to do important work, I got to do that in the first few hours. And a lot of times I work with gym owners, the first thing I'm going to have them do is either cancel 2 mornings per week or maybe 3, or if you can, delegate it. If you're training in the mornings and you are thrilled with your business, don't change anything. Don't change anything. Keep doing what you're doing. If you're not happy with your business and you don't have time, but you're insisting on training in the mornings, I would invite you to consider if you can change that. Here's a thing I did well and a thing I did bad, okay? I led from the front for learning. I'm a learning person. Somebody said they read 2 books per week. So the fateful summer of 2010, I thought it was Cosgrove or Boyle or Cressy. They all told me it wasn't them. I don't know. Somebody said it. So I decided I'm going to read a training book and a business book for my acting career. Ha, ha, ha. So I started reading books, and I did a lot of other stuff, right? I read books, but I also took courses. I go to Perform Better. I got certs. I hired coaches. I hired consultants. And it's not a competition, but if it was, I feel like I did very good setting a standard there. What I didn't do so good was I didn't understand that not everybody reads from books. I was thinking, I don't know, this might be a fever dream. Fury, you can confirm or deny. I think at one point the education system was, oh yeah, you're a trainer, you have to read 2 books per month every month. You have to read 25 books per year. And my attitude was like, oh, you can't read that? Why? I read 12. You can't read 2 books per month? Dickhead. So this was problematic for a number of reasons. First of all, a lot of people don't learn well by reading books. So like again, God, I love that team. They really tried, and a lot of them would do it, and then I'd get mad at them because they'd be like, I'm reading this book, but it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm like, it's obvious, just write it down and do different things. And anybody can do this. No, not everybody learns well by reading. So over the years, we got better at that. We started doing things like, closing down the business and bringing in Kevin Carr from Certified Functional Strength Coach to train the team. We started doing more like video courses. We also started integrating conversations to help people contextualize things, right? Because, everybody's reading John Mackey from Whole Foods, Conscious Capitalism. And then Stacey Jackson is like, what does this have to do with training? And I'm like, isn't it obvious? No. So yes, make your people read, but here's the other thing that's hard. You gotta thread a needle. I got no formula. You have to have standards or it's not gonna happen. And if you make it compulsory, it will suck and it will rob off all the joy. I don't have a perfect solve because everybody's different here, but you need some standards, and it probably is not read 2 books a week and then change how you approach your business. That's not it, apparently. Finally, you gotta know your numbers. So I think of my career in like 4-year eras, and I don't think I really got numbers till COVID and beyond. I think I started understanding they mattered 2016 to 2019. Now this is like my thing. I've turned this into a strength, right? I love me. You show me a P&L, you show me a dashboard, and I very quickly be like, maybe do this, right? I couldn't do that for a long time. In the beginning of my career, even when I first talked at Perform Better, it was all culture all day long. And that's all well and good, and that stuff matters. It probably needs to be the most important thing, because if the product's not great and the people aren't great, you're lost. But you do got to know the numbers. I remember a nice woman from China moved to New York City after seeing me speak at IDEA. I swear to you, true story. She moved from China to New York to learn about Mark Fisher Fitness. And she would take me to the basement of MFF and grill me about the numbers and laugh her ass off at me because I didn't know any of the numbers. I had no clue. So I share this because if you have felt overwhelmed by numbers, well, I don't know. Listen, it took me like 8 years to figure out the numbers, right? So don't be sad if you're like, I don't have them yet. I needed a long time. Second, you gotta know your numbers, and it's not that hard. So, wanna keep it actionable. If you own a gym, you gotta review your profit and loss statement at least every month, go line by line. It's not that many for most of you. It's not like MFF, it's not that complicated. So get a handle on what you're spending on what, and then have some weekly and monthly numbers you track. You got me in a vacuum. I'm gonna say track leads, front-end offers sold or engaged, sales offers, conversations, new members, terminations, and then if you have active clients, you know churn. If you know that and you got a profit and loss, you know a lot of what you need, not the only thing, but you know a lot of what you need to know about the business, and I promise you can learn it. And I will say the thing that is useful is, it's more useful if you understand those numbers in relationship to industry and market specific benchmarks for your model, that you can find that out. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, but you can find some help for that. But I would say the numbers matter more in relation to year-over-year, month-over-month trends, and industry benchmarks. Here we are, waiting for the aliens to take us away. Let's do an exercise. Do this for me. I want you to write down 2 things. Write down 2 things, or sit there and stare at me and know that I like you. Please write down your favorite 3 to 5 clients, and I want you to identify what do they all have in common. And if you don't want to write down, you can do it in your head. But I want you to think through, right, who are the client when you see them? Like, oh yes, Mrs. Rossini, right? Who's the clients that get you pumped up? And I want you to pick a few of them and then try to see, are there any threads that you can connect? are the things about them they have in common. And I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Okay, so now let's talk about how we find the others. Raise your hand if you were at Vince's talk yesterday. Okay, good, okay. So for those of you there yesterday, I apologize. Hopefully repetitions of other mastery, but Vince said everything I agree with, so I guess I am in fact right, because Vince said it, okay? So this is literally like the same things he said. So first, for the avatar, right, you need to understand the demographics. Who is it you're serving? Right? And I like to think there's 3 ways you can niche down for brick and mortar. The first is, in your local town or neighborhood, you can only train the people that can drive you a couple times a week. So that already gets rid of everybody on the planet, except for a few. Then there's 2 other ways you can niche down further. Age and identity. Age and identity. Now, I want to give you a formulation you can use on your website, on your Instagram, and in an elevator pitch at a local coffee shop so people understand what you do, who you help, and the outcomes you create. When I look at your website, I want to know who you help and the outcomes you create. So the formulation, write this down if you like. The formulation is, we help this kind of person achieve these specific outcomes. We'll get back to outcomes in a minute, but right now, we help this kind of person achieve this specific outcome. For this kind of person, you have these things, right? And you're gonna pick probably 1 to 3. It could be like, we help busy Franklin Lakes moms over 40. You see why you probably don't need all 3. That becomes a mouthful. We help high school athletes. We help busy professionals over the age of 50. We help ... Now again, if you're thinking the headline, the Instagram profile, or the conversation in the coffee shop, you only have a certain number of words. You don't have unlimited words. So if you see us in Franklin Lakes, it's, we help busy adults over 40 who want to lose fat, get strong, and feel 10 years younger. Would you be interested in coming by for 2 free workouts? Right, and then we move into an offer, okay? So on the website, you can cheat this. You can do best gym in name of town, and then you can leave that off there. Here's an important thing to understand. Ooh, I need your eyeballs. This is important. For digital assets, you gotta lead with the town. Don't make them think. If you confuse, you lose. I look at a lot of websites. That's why a lot of good Facebook ads are always, I know it's boring, but marketing is not the place to be clever. Right, the Facebook ad is always going to be, hello, Franklin Lakes residents, right? It's call out the top, because if it's a digital asset, you don't want to make the person think, where are you? Is this near me, right? In person, arguably, probably not as important because it's presumed they're in the area. So this is how you slice and dice this, and I would note briefly, once you know this, you also know where they are, because then you can sort of reverse engineer where are they physically, what businesses they use, what are their social affiliations, what digital platforms do they find themselves on. Now we talk about psychographics, okay? Can I tell you what I think, this is what I think is the biggest mistake I see, broad, at a very high level with marketing for trainers and gyms. Can I tell this to you? Here's what I think the biggest mistake I see is, and this is normal, and I'm sure I've done this. We talk too much about what we care about and what we think they should want. We talk about what we care about and what we think they should want in the words that we would use, okay? But if we want to be successful, if we want to be client-centered, we should talk about what they care about in the words they want to use, right? Vince talked about this yesterday. It's sometimes called the Robert Collier effect. You want to enter the conversation going on in the prospect's minds, okay? So Vince had an awesome handout. I hope you were there yesterday because it goes into great detail about some of these items. I tend to think about it in 4 buckets. First of all, I got short-term wants and short-term frustrations. On this formulation, the website, the Instagram, you got short-term wants. We help this kind of person do this, and do this. We help this kind of person have more energy, get strong, and feel like $1,000,000, right? And that last one is a little bit general. But when you're talking about the short-term wants, you want to identify what I call the functional benefit. the functional benefit. Another well-intentioned mistake, this is a little bit more nuanced, is when we talk about the instrumental benefit. You'll say, but Mark, my prospects say they want motivation. They say that they want accountability. Aha, no they don't. They want to have more energy. They want to be strong. They're telling you that because they believe that is a process that will help them achieve the functional benefit. That is an instrumental benefit they want, but you want the short-term wants in the words that they would use, okay? Now, if you go to short-term frustrations, that is essentially the opposite of that, right? So if I want to have energy, the short-term frustration would be feeling sluggish, right? And you can back out any short-term want to a short-term frustration. So here's your hack for this. Again, I only got one sentence on the website, the headline of an ad maybe, in a conversation at the coffee shop. I'm talking about person and their wants, keeping it tight. If I have more words, if I have you have a lunch and learn, you have a longer form Facebook ad, you have an email, you have sales copy, you have an Instagram caption. You have more time now to talk about not only their short-term frustrations, but you can also get into some of this really useful stuff that was on Vince's handout yesterday, the long-term desires and long-term nightmares. Right? Because you're probably not putting that up at the very top of the website before they scroll down the fold. You got to go right to the thing they want in the words they use, but you also have to know at night when they're falling asleep, if they're thinking about what they really want and what they're afraid is going to happen if they don't get their arms around this fitness thing, or what they dream about how their life might change. What if I did start to see better fitness? Like, what if I did have more energy throughout the day? And what if I could get up and off the ground with my kid? And what if I didn't feel like I was 65 years old every day, right? Which is fine if you're 65, but not if you're 45. So those things are valuable, but they're gonna come more in handy when you have more words, right? If you just have a tight thing, you're gonna mostly focus on short-term wants. Okay. So to my mind, the foundation of the culture before the team is you, what you care about, the city you want to live in, the world you want to build, and the people that you're writing a love letter to, the community that you love more than anyone else, that you're driven to serve. I do think you need to consider the realities of the market. That's a thing. You don't have an unlimited market. You have to consider that. And I think you should consider who are you on fire in the morning to get up and make their lives better. I think that's going to help. So some old school MFF marketing pieces, a little dated now, but we had a trial, but instead of calling it a trial, we called it just hooking up. You don't want a boyfriend or girlfriend? Let's just make out. This one, Michael Keeler, my business partner, he's depraved. He gets credit for a lot of these. Is your other gym not calling you back? They're not following up? I'll hook up with you. This was, I don't even know what this was. We used to have Black Friday, and then we had Cyber Monday, and then Mike was like Cyber Sex Monday, which isn't even a thing anymore. Some of you youngins might know about it, but we talked about cyber sex in the aughts. It was a different time. We used to do a big trip to Punta Cana. We brought like 70 ninjas and 6 staff, and it was super fun, and we didn't make any money because we have 7 people, you're not gonna make any money. So we're like, this is cool, but this is a lot of work. I wanna make $1, so maybe I'll just go on vacation next time. This is some old school MFF marketing. Now, I gotta say, in 2025, I like more personal branded letters. MFF started as letters, and then in 2020, this is like a weird thing. If I can share something, this meant a lot to me. It's a little bit braggy, but also sort of a backhanded compliment. In 2020, I started writing the emails again during COVID. And I was like, okay, I think this is a better way to use me as the dancing monkey, and I like writing, and I think if you can develop that connection, it's important. I also think you can out-human the robots. And we had a ninja that went to the Yale School of Divinity and wrote his dissertation on Mark Fisher Fitness emails during COVID. And it was a little bit of backhand, but it was like good. I really liked it. It was like good. It was fair because he was like, this is an example of ministry. And he also was like, and this is complicated because he's selling me things. And I was like, damn, Gina, that's like real life. Yeah, and I really appreciate it. And both are right? It is this sincere, and that's like a thing, right? It's a complicated world. I am trying to make your life better, but I'm also trying to get you to do a thing I think is good for you, and I think it's fair to point out both of those. So I like personal branding, but in the old days, for a while, we didn't do it, right? And again, it's like newsflash, bitches, right? Casual, like, oh, Beast is writing for men's fitness. I'm writing for women's health. This was also a very like classic MFF move. I don't know if this flies these days, but we would do a lot of like what the kids call thirst traps. But we could do it because it was funny. Because it was like, oh, but it's funny. I have a kettlebell on my penis, so it's hilarious. It's not meant to be titillating. Are many gay members that like us? Some more social media. This is rest in peace, Landon Jones, our fourth trainer, our first resident drag queen, Chelsea Piers. Sad to say, Landon tragically actually passed away in an auto accident, freak accident, trying to help someone stranded on the side of the road. He was a really wonderful dude, brought a lot to the clubhouse. This is a ninja going off to active duty. They did a party for him. Jay Pinkerton turned 69, so his class threw an S&M party, and they all wore harnesses. This was one of the ninjas, or one of our trainers was getting married, so the ninjas threw a bridal shower for her. Now, I note these are all things that the ninjas did for the people, like not MFF, and we'll come back in a minute about how I think you can help that happen. Another drag queen, Suddenly Seymour. This actually I saw the other day, because sometimes at MFF, the place is so out of its head, and there's always been a feeling of like, it's like Burning Man. Like, oh, Burning Man is over. And it's funny because you all like don't spend a lot of time at MFF except for y'all. And a lot of people look at MFF and they're like, the thing about MFF is it's just a very normal gym now. It literally looks like every other gym. All of you, your gyms are identical to MFF. And then I see things like this and I'm like, I don't think it's exactly like every other gym that performed better. Okay, I want to talk a little about the community piece here. So community is built when we talk about the things that matter to people who care. I think like culture, you can't make community directly, but you can create the conditions. You can fertilize, you can water it. And this is a story, I think, an example of like MFF at its best. So this was a couple years ago. A ninja emailed me privately asking for help because his 3-year-old niece had terminal brain cancer. Now that's heavy. That was heavy then. I got a 3-year-old daughter now. It hits even harder now. And he writes me, he says, Mark, I don't want to post this publicly on social media, but can you go in the MFF group and ask the ninjas to send my niece pictures and cards and letters from animals. She loves animals. And I want her last day to just be buried with pictures and stories from animals. And I kid you not, there had to be, like, I'm not even exaggerating, like 100, maybe 150 people, like all these ninjas like chiming with all these like funny things, like Hank is very busy today, but he'll post something soon. And Chelsea and Cecilia will gladly answer the call. And we had like 150 people. And I'm just thinking about this 3-year-old kid in Florida with terminal brain cancer. I'm thinking about this kid's parents. And I'm thinking about her getting hundreds of cards and pictures from a bunch of weirdos in New York City. And I think that's so amazing. And I'm like so proud of any part in any of that happening. Again, you can't create community directly, but I think you can do some things to facilitate. So I'm gonna give you a few of those. I'd love for you to write them down, okay? So I think events, if you got a gym, I do think community events matter, and I'm gonna tell you some right and wrong. So for years, we would have a big party at a off-Broadway multiplex, where you'd have hundreds of people celebrating the snatch party, and people would party and hook up and do drugs, and there were drag queens. It was amazing, right? And, it was super awesome, and it drove leads, and it brought the community together. And one thing that, has been an interesting balance for us to figure out is like, my buddy Stu Brower writes about fitness, right? He's like, yeah, you have to let your clients terminate because otherwise you'll have a bunch of old people, right? And I was like, well, I don't know, it's true about MFF, but a lot of the same people. So we used to be 25 to 45, and now we're 40 to 70. So it's like a different, MFF has really changed. So one thing I think we could have done different is more quickly like update what we were doing, because even by the end of 11 p.m., a lot of us were like, this is late, right? Takeaway for you, gonna be different. We do this at my gym in New Jersey. If you're a gym, I don't know you, you decide you're gonna do 3 to 5 events per year. I think some could be in the gym, And some could be out the gym in a park or at a business partner's. Some could be about fitness. Alana is doing one on training for menopause at the end of September. Some are not about fitness. We did a happy hour at a local brewery where we bought beer for our clients and their friends. Some can be a big lift. So I don't know if we'll keep doing this timing, but one thing I think MFF I did like, we started doing, after COVID, the ridiculously, absurdly early holiday party in mid-November, because it was before you were going to compete with the holiday parties. I think one of your events per year, maybe the holiday, go in. Get business partners involved, have a budget, give awards to your clients, market the hell out of it, have them bring their friends. But the other thing we did wrong is if you try to do that every time, it gets old and you need like a full-time person doing it. So for a lot of your community events, you should go on a hike. Be like, dear clients, we're gonna have a picnic in the park. Bring your kids, right? There's ways to do this that are very light lift. And again, for Alloy, and probably for a lot of you, if I have 20 people show up, well, that gym can only handle 130 clients most before we have to open up another location. Like, that's good. That feels like a win for us. What rituals can you celebrate for milestones? So two considerations. One, I think it's a good idea to track if people are not coming, okay? If you got a premium price product, I know the booking billing platforms don't always make it easy, but if you can track if people are not coming, that is helpful. We did it at MFF. It's very hard because there are a lot of people. Alloy, it's very manual. We actually track in a spreadsheet, which is like not the best, but we have trouble with that booking billing platform. But we still do it there too, but it's less people, so it's easier. So at a minimum, I think if someone's paying you $400, $500 a month, even $200, and they're paying you, I feel very sad if you're like not coming for like 3 weeks and I just like don't notice, right? It's that great Mary Kay quote, everybody has an invisible necklace on their chest that says, make me feel special. Or the inversion, don't do things that make me feel like I don't matter here, okay? Now, let's talk about the opposite, the positive things you can do. Do it the right way, okay? So having milestone awards is great. I think you should have a simple, easy to roll out system to acknowledge when people are coming. Maybe you just have them hold a sign that says 50 workouts and you do a picture. Well, I do everything the hard way because I'm a dum-dum. So Mark Fisher Fitness, we had like the milestone awards, which sounds great. Jamie Howard's getting an award, looks so cool. But of course, I'm an idiot. So we had the 100 class swag and the 250 and the 100 SGPT shirt and the 250. So we're having to manage inventory for a lot of different body sizes, and we're constantly not having the right size. And then we forget to do the thing at all, and then Ninja gets mad at us because they're looking in their app and they're like, I'm at 125, I haven't received a thing. I guess you don't like me as much as Billy, right? And because I won't even, this isn't relevant, but hardcore MFF fans will know, for a while we did the worst thing called Founders Club, which I'm so sorry. I would present on that. I was like, Founders Club. It was this very complicated loyalty award program based on like how much money you spend, how many visits. Terrible idea. So complicated, didn't budge retention. So don't do that. Do something simple. By the way, we just messed this up again at Alloy because the 50th visit, what should we give them? Let's give them nice hoodies, like really nice, like $70 hoodies for their 50th visit. Well, guess what happens? Now they're at 100, 150. So these people thinking I'm going to get them a car for their 250th visit. Acknowledging big life events. There's a few things you can do here too. We started doing this post-COVID. Hat tip, I think I got this from Rick Mayo. A small budget for personal gifts. A couple $100. The thing is you have to keep your staff accountable or it won't happen. They'll forget to do it. Give them a couple $100 to give a personal gift to a client. Could be celebrating something. Could be a book that they reference. My guy Rajlal, I bought like tickets. You want to take ninjas to the movies? Amazing, right? A modest budget that shows the person you are special. I see you. You personally matter to me. I know about you and I care about you. Doesn't need to be a big expense. Even cheaper is handwritten cards. So MFF famously, at the beginning of team meetings for years, when we had in team meetings, I don't know what they do anymore because I don't work there, but maybe we do it. Yeah, we do it. Still do it. We would start the full team meeting by brainstorming 10 to 30 cards where we'd mourn losses, we'd celebrate new jobs, and I think the way we do this at Alloy might make more sense for you is Alana and Alex have a weekly KPI on the dashboard, do 2 cards per week. Don't let it be red. Mark doesn't like red, he likes green. It should say 2 every week when we look at how many cards we wrote, okay? That's a little bit more scaled for most of you. Another pro tip, get the cards branded with your logo. At MFF, you don't do this, but at MFF we wrote so many, we'd have kinds of cards. Like, so a lot of our clients won Tony Awards on Broadway. So we had like special cards when they'd win Tonys. But my favorite was if you were getting engaged, we'd send you a card, say, congrats, threesome. My favorite was, if you got pregnant, we'd send you a card that would say, congrats, your sluttiness has finally paid off. It was a different time, but I still think it's funny. They did too. Okay, finally, who does group training in here? Raise your hand if you do group training. Okay, so one thing that maybe you're already doing this, but if not, I think icebreakers are like the game, because you can't be friends with people if you don't know their name. So just starting every session with an icebreaker, you can do the warm-up first. There's also an opportunity to do an in-session, one tight announcement, some internal marketing, but have a name game, because listen, you can't make them be friends in the session because they want to do workouts. They're paying us for workouts. They're not paying us for programs yet. Once you train them, they'll know better, but right now they want good workouts and exercises. So I'm gonna give you that first. So I can't make you hang out in the session, but if you know each other's name and you do, tell us your name and where you're from originally. Tell us your name and what are you binging on Netflix. Tell us your name and what's your favorite book of all time. You allow them to start to have some conversations, right? Obviously at MFF, we would get very weird. This was, I don't know if this is true or not. Josh Young, is that the Josh Young name game story? Okay, I have a half remembering of this, oh boy. So a dear friend of mine from college actually became a Tony-nominated Broadway star. And MFF people, sometimes Broadway people, have negotiated Mark Fisher Fitness in the contract if they're gonna be naked in a show. So Josh is in a show, diligently training because it's gonna be a loincloth, 8 shows a week on Broadway. And we were doing the name game, and I thought Fury did this name game. And by the way, this might be like me misremembering it. So I read one day, Josh posts on Facebook, it's a post getting a lot of likes, and he's like, so in my gym, we always share each other's name and a name game at the beginning of class. And today, that name game, I thought this was you, Furry, was, it was me, Art. What's the weirdest place you've had group sex in? Not have you had group sex, but what's the weirdest place you've had group sex in? And I'm here in this room of people of all ages and sizes and colors and gender expressions, and everybody's sharing the weirdest place they've had group sex in. And then it gets to me at the end of the class, and I look around and I sheepishly say, I've been saving myself for the right group of people. So maybe you wouldn't do that one, but we've certainly found some subversive bonding has been useful for us at MFF. Okay, so we'll talk a little about leadership, but first, can I have your permission to do a little bit of get off my lawn, kids? Can you nod? Can I do get off my lawn, kids? Let me nod your head. I want permission. It's not a rant. I don't really rant. I think what a lot of people get wrong is we're really good at the training. And we can talk about values, and we can talk about your marketing funnel, and we can talk about culture, and we can talk about customer service. But if the in-person session is not good, it doesn't matter. So those are some of the people we've learned from over the years. We're fortunate. Fury actually taught at various points for Original Strength, DVRT, Dragon Door, and Strong First, right? Like I've already told you, we'd shut down the gym and have Kevin Carr come and give us all the certified functional strength coach. Now, I'll also admit, over the years, we've had ebbs and flows. I can't say every year it's always been at the level we've wanted, but when it wasn't, we worked hard to invest in, is the training product good, and is the experience of energy exchange good? If you take nothing away from this entire talk, this is what I want you to take. You ready? Nothing away from this talk. You ready? This is the one thing I want you to write down. You and everyone on your team have an important standard that when the person walks in the door, you greet them excitedly by name. Yes, Teresa, yes, good to see you. And you can do that intentionally and still be sincere. That doesn't need to be unctuous, right? Yes, read How to Win Friends. Yes, if people don't feel like you like them and they don't feel that you're competent, you're not gonna do great. The game for in-session stuff is they're asking, are you competent? Do you know what you're doing? And like, do you like me? And do I like you? So if nothing else, one service hack, the minute the person walks in your gym or walks in the room, you're like, yes, Drew is here. Where's Drew? Drew is here. Yes, the party has started. Let's go, right? And that can be trained, and you can do that sincerely. That doesn't need to be a mechanism. All right, so yes, learn about marketing, make money, be good at training. Okay, this is speaking to the choir here, perform better. Let's talk about leadership. I want you to identify, we're gonna do this real quick because I want to get you out of here on time. Stand up for me, everybody stand up, you're doing great. We have 17 minutes left to end on time. Stretch up if need be, you're doing so great. It's the middle of the day, You're doing great, I like you, and I should like you because you're very likable. That's the thing about you. Now, what I want you to do is, we're not going to do this long. In your head right now, I want you to identify an impactful leader, good or bad. Raise your hand if you can think of an impactful leader, good or bad. Raise your hand up. Yeah, you control your chicken wing. I get it. This is fine. Okay. Raise your hand. You can think of an impactful leader, good or bad. Raise your hand. I'll wait till all our hands are up, which means you've thought of it or you're indulging me, and I will take your indulgence. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this really fast because this room is loud. We're not having a conversation. You're just going to share the feelings that this leader helped instill in you. It could be confident, competent, disempowered, unworthy, small. And literally it's going to be like that. So you're going to talk to 2 or 3 people. We're going to do it very quick. And you're going to say, my leader made me feel this. And this, and this, right? Pick 1 to 3 words, find someone else, and then that's all you're going to share. You're just going to make eye contact, share, hello, my leader made me feel capable, and they made me feel like I was worth something, right? So we're going to do this quickly, and then I'm going to clap, and you're going to sit back down and stop talking, or this will take 15 minutes. I like you a lot. So tell somebody else how the leader made you felt. Go! Okay, you may sit down. You did great. Sit back down. Sit back down. You did great. This clicker isn't working. Okay. So leadership. We don't have a lot of time to talk about this, but I think honestly, if you really want the bigger things, right? It's not wrong to not want to own a gym, but I actually think everybody benefits from leadership. I think leadership obviously matters if you run a business and you have a team, that's obvious. Raise your hand if you're currently working for someone else. I don't love the word employee, but if you work for somebody else, okay? You're their team, okay? I think if you're an ambitious team member, you're going to be really limited on the impact you can make and also the money that your owner can pay you if you're just a solo contributor. Right? Like if you're only able to impact by just doing your job, there's going to be a cap to that. But if you can help your owner work through other people, that's very valuable. I also think, raise your hand if you're a trainer, one human band, you do your own thing. Anyone here? Okay, a couple, yeah. That's what I did for years. Right? And I think I didn't really do this at the end of it, I did get an assistant, but even if you're one human band, you can delegate. Hell, if you're an employee in a leadership team, you can also potentially delegate. If you got a cool boss, they'll help you get the lower value things off your plate for somebody else. And not only that, I think coaching is a kind of leadership. I'd stand by that. They're different. They're definitely different, but I think coaching is a kind of leadership. I believe that leaders have outsized influence in our lives. Leaders have outsized influence in our lives. So if you're going to work with other people, and it seems like a lot of you do, I do think the bad news is this is a craft of which there are no masters and we forever apprentices. The good news is if you get this right, it can be like the most gratifying part, I think, of what we do professionally. So a few tactical things. The first is we got to have written down standards for things. Having a written down system doesn't mean anything good's going to happen. But if you don't have a written down system, it's going to be hard to expect people who are singing from the same songbook. So we need a system. Then we need the system for training people on the systems. And then we need a third system to make sure they're doing the system over time. The system, they train them on the systems, quality control systems. But it starts with the system. Our business is a bunch of recipes. Ultimately, your business is a bunch of recipes. There'll be lots of room for humanity. You're going to systemize the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional. But we have to have clear standards, right? If you go back and you want your team to always greet people by name, you can try to train them through the oral tradition, but it'd be better off if it's written down and then drilled and becomes a part of how you train them. Now, how do we develop people over time? I would argue a lot of it is through meetings. A lot of people say meetings suck. They often suck. The answer is not to not have meetings. It's just make the meetings not suck. Most development for your team will happen through full team meetings and through one-on-ones. The frequency is going to be different based on the role and what they do, but it's going to be through full team meetings and for one-on-ones. I think if you're a bigger facility, you might have departmental meetings with just the trainers or maybe just the marketing and sales team. And ideally, you have a leadership meeting once a week. Raise your hand, owners. Raise your hand, owners, yep. So if you're the owner, optimally once a week, you put that strategy hat on. It's hard to do that in your own head. Ideally, you have at least one consigliere, maybe a couple, right, where you talk out loud, you look at all the numbers, and you think big picture. Remember the three roles you have: strategy, growth, leadership. Right? The leadership meeting once per week, you get together, you get clear on, are all the numbers going where we want, and what can we do to make the business better for our clients and for our team. I'm going to give you my agendas in a minute. Right? If you didn't get the goal thing, my agenda thing is very readable. It's designed to just be read and run with. I use it religiously. I'm convinced a lot of the success I've started to have later in my career was because I really became an adherent of this particular meeting structure, which I'm happy to give to you. The other thing that I think should be part of this system is how do you get feedback, leaders? I already told you, it's not fun when the person rolls up and they roll the piece of paper. I'm like, I'm fucked up now. This is bad. I'm about to hear some hurtful shit. But a lot of the growth that I've had in my life, in my career, is because I was lucky to work with a lot of people that told me a lot of hurtful things to hear. And guess what? Sometimes, and this was like this, only in the past couple years I got the place where I could do this. You probably, obviously, what I didn't know is sometimes your team is actually wrong. And it's true that they feel that way. So it's still good feedback. Because what's true is I'm coming across that way. But sometimes, because in my first couple years, whatever you said to me, I was like, you're right, you're right, you're right. My mom and dad, I never really got a lot of attention and love. And I read extreme ownership, and you're right. You weren't showing up to work on time, and it's my fault. I should have inspired you. I didn't inspire you. You're right. It's me, right? But it's not always you. But it is partly you almost all the time. And a lot of time, it is you. And it sucks because oftentimes it is unkind and it is unfair and it's delivered at the wrong time. But you must take the giant trash bag of shit that is feedback and you must reach in the various liquidities and textures because there are diamonds in there, right? You're going to hear hard things. And the reason I've I think, gotten better at this is because a lot of people have told me very difficult things to hear that were very helpful. And I will say, for my part, I think I've given as good as I got. I think I've also shared some tough things in my time. Crucial conversation. I'll say it one more time. I don't like to recommend a lot of books because of what I said earlier. It's not for everybody, but if you haven't read that one, that's a good one. Now, briefly, because I want to get you out of here. So let's talk about some of the value stuff. I promise we'd bring it back, okay? So values-based interview questions. My favorite interview questions are not hypothetical. They're not like, hypothetically, if a client came in and they said, what would you, nope. Tell me about a time where ... You can be sure what you know about me, I'm going to ask. Tell me about a time you had a conflict with a boss or supervisor. I want to know, what was the situation, what did you do, and how did it turn out? And the secret is, I don't care how it turned out. I care that they can think of an example, which lets me know, is this an operative principle for them? And I want to understand their perspective. Optimally, they would say, they never do, but optimally they'd be like, well, I talked to my boss because I figured, well, I'm sure I'm contributing to this in some way, and well, if they don't know that I'm upset with them, surely they'll benefit if I put this on their radar, right? They don't usually say that. Unfortunately, most of the time they slag their boss, which is not a great sign, I would note, about me hiring them. Also, values review in team meetings. We already talked about team meetings. So Business for Unicorns is like the fourth version of mine and Michael's attempt to build the city we want to live in. And we focus on one value in those team meetings: simplicity, because this is my fourth go at it. That's the thing I think I did so bad the first 8 years. I started getting better for 4 years. I think finally I am there, but the complexity monster will always get me. So I think if you want to start team meetings, could even be one-on-ones. You have to talk about values until people are so disgusted and annoyed about talking about them, and then you have to do it like 10 times as amount, and then you're like 1% of the way there. Values-based praise. If you're going to give someone positive feedback in a meeting, in an email, you have an opportunity to always link it to the value, right? So at Mark Fisher Fitness, we have a form called the GLOWs. So if somebody does something good, any team member can write an email, a form that goes to everybody on the team that says the good thing that happened. And you have a drop down. You have to choose what value is being expressed in this glow, in this positive thing that we're looking to all celebrate together. And then finally, I'm not going to talk about it because it's in the form that I'll give you. But I think the annual check-ins at least, but maybe quarterly check-ins, are an opportunity to review people's values. I really strongly believe this is like one of the most valuable resources we have. It's probably one of the least sexy and least popular because people don't care about this, but I promise you it'd be helpful if you did, and I recommend considering getting this and taking a look at how you run your meetings, because so much of the work of leadership is in those structures. It's also informal. It's also how your body language. It's how you greet the team when they come in, right? It's like the check-in, the card, that stuff matters too, but the formal structure is there. All right. 2 final stories. So around 2015, I woke up my wife in the middle of the night crying. I'm like sobbing. I'm like, whatever dream I'm having, I'm like dry heaving. And I wake up my now wife, and I tell her I had this dream. I had a dream that I had a baby tiger. And I don't know about you, raise your hand if you had a dog growing up. Anyone have like a dog? None of any. We had dogs growing up, but I had like 100 kids in my family, so like, I don't know, there were too many. That's why I'm desperate for your attention and validation. So we had hundreds of kids. So we had like dogs, but like didn't feel like it was my dog. But in this dream, for the first time in my life, I experienced a cute animal that looked at me as their person. And this dream, I'm crying because it's a baby tiger. I can't keep a baby tiger. You're going to grow, right? And I cry, and I come to understand what I think this meant. And I don't know. I don't know for sure. But if there's one thing I wish I would have done a little bit different in the beginning, I wish I would have understood more about what I could and could not promise. You all sense I have a certain juice, right? I can get the people going. And in the beginning, I was like, everyone's gonna have a clubhouse. You get a car and you get a clubhouse, right? And I didn't realize that not everybody wants to grow that way. Some people can't answer their emails in a timely manner, and that's disqualifying. But I think in the beginning, there was some disconnect because I just didn't know that, right? And I remember telling the team about this. I don't know if you were there for this one, Fear, when I told people about team meeting. And if I remember, everybody came and hugged me, which at the time felt sort of pathetic, but now actually feels kind of nice. So one thing I think I've gotten better about is letting people know that it's okay to go. I think one thing, I'll die on this hill, I am the all-time best at it is okay to leave. It is never not okay to leave. I don't even care if you're my best and favorite employee, my best friend. You got something else to do? Go do it. It's like if one person wants a divorce, guess what? We shouldn't be married anymore because one person doesn't want to be in it and it doesn't work that way, right? So one thing I think that has been helpful in the later half of my career is starting 2016, when I would do the culture onboard, I'd do 2 90-minute sessions. I'd let people know, right, like, you're going to be here probably for a couple of years. And then I'm not going to have anything else for you. And I'm going to pour everything I can to develop you personally and professionally. And you're going to go on and make me so, so, so proud, right? And then it becomes like a nice surprise if in fact they do stick around because their speed of growth and their skill set and what they want professionally maps to what we need at the pace we're growing. Amazing. But like, let's not make it a sad thing if people, particularly in smaller gyms, are going to move on, right? Because remember, sometimes they'll open up their own gym, they'll hire you as their coach, and then they'll buy your gym, right? And finally, let me tell you about Liz Messina. Liz Messina. So Liz Messina, I love Liz Messina. She was a coach of ours, kind of the early days of MFF. She was handmade for MFF. Springfield grad, Bill Hartman protégé at IFAST, Olympic lifting, superhero, and she was born in Brooklyn, went to clubs, went to Burning Man, and was fucking crazy. She was perfect. She was so great. I loved her. And she was a little challenging sometimes. Now, I was younger at managing, but I love Liz, but I'd often have to have conversations like, hey, Liz, apparently got some feedback you were laying down in your session this morning in semi-privates. It's not, I know we're informal, but it's not something like the best message to lay down in the session. So can I ask you to not lay down while you're training people? So Liz was amazing. I loved her. And she went on to do other things. I actually learned a lot by having to coach her because I both loved her and I had to constantly be like, well, I guess we have to write down that you can't leave in the session to go to get coffee 10 minutes away. But she sent me this picture recently. So I'll read it because I know you can't see it. But I wrote a reference letter for her to be a nurse. And 2 years ago, I'm at Burning Man, which you know because I don't shut up about it. So I'm at Burning Man. She writes, I would just like to inform you 10 years later, I'm employing what I learned at MFF while doing life-saving work in the infant cardiac intensive care unit. And I'm like, okay, tell me more about that, right? And she writes some more about MFF stuff, right? And she writes there's always room for play. She's in the infant cardiac intensive care unit. On the last day of life, on the first day of life, there's always room for play. And I was like that for me is the game, right? And I know that for everybody in this room, and listen, it doesn't always work out that beautifully, but I bet if you're in this room and you've taken this weekend away, my bet is that's the kind of game you're playing. Yeah, I bet you're in here because, you want to learn some tips and make some money and help some clients train more. But whether it's your clients, your team, I think we have an opportunity to massively impact people as leaders, as gym owners, as trainers. And as I get you out of here, a few quick final thoughts, right? First of all, if you've not gotten the thing, I want you to get it. The second thing, I want to thank you, Perform Better. I don't know if they're here, but I love Perform Better. So, okay, Erin's here. Okay, great. So she won't say it, so I'll say this. Buy their shit. These are great events. These are great events. But I love these people. I don't know how they do it. Everybody that works at Perform Better is both on their shit and totally cool. And that's what you want. Hard to find it. Because usually people that are on their shit are not fun. And usually people that are fun are not on their shit. Not always. But everybody at Perform Better is fun and on their shit, right? I particularly learned so much from watching Chris particularly the past few years, getting to watch the way he models leadership. So my request to you is give them your money. Buy their shit, right? They run great educational events, but let's not forget they do equipment stuff. So thank you for that. Then finally, I want to thank you for two things. I always thank people for this first thing, but I got a second one for you today. The first thing is thank you for being fitness professionals and trainers. Your life is 1,000 acts of silent acts of heroism that no one will see, where you stay late with that client for an hour because they're thinking they might get a divorce, and you keep emailing the physical therapist and they won't get back, and then they do, they say, her hip flexors are tight, right? You do so many over-the-top things to take care of people. There's so much emotional labor in our job, and it is amazing to me that you amazing humans do this thing, and I just want to say, I know that not everybody gets to see it, but I see it, and I want to thank you so much for doing that. I feel lucky to be in industry with people like you. And the last thing, this is new for this talk, is I want to thank you, to the extent that you do, for finding me acceptable. I used to come to Perform Better. This is a true story. I'd come to Perform Better. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I'd wear all black, and my face wouldn't move. I'd be conscious about don't let your face move. If your face moves, you will freak them the fuck out. Pretend like you're normal. Pretend like you're normal. Because I love training, and I want to talk about training, but I'm weird, so what do I do, right? And I feel so lucky because this industry, and I gotta shout out Mike Boyle and Dan John and Gray Cook, early on we're yeah, you're weird, but it's cool, man. You're cool. It's a cool thing you're doing, right? And I want to thank you and this Perform Better community, because for a guy that grew up not feeling comfortable in a gym, a guy that a lot of his career was are everyone gonna like me here? People probably think I'm crazy. I feel so grateful that I get to do things to talk to all of you. And I will say from the bottom of my heart, I don't have anything to do till tomorrow. I will go all night long. I do not need breaks. You can come find me here. I'm doing a Q&A next. I'm at the social. I'm going to do my best to move you concisely. So if I have people, if no one else shows up and it's just one, we'll hang out for 5 hours and that'll be great. Thank you for what you do. My sword is sworn to your house. I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I like you. I like you. I like you. I like you.